Silver on the Tree by Susan Cooper. Chapter 3, The Calling. Up in Will's attic bedroom, the air was warm and still, furry with summer heat. He lay on his back, listening to the late-night murmur and chink below as the last waking Stantons, his father and Stephen, he thought, from the rumbling voices, made ready for bed. This had been Stephen's bedroom once, and Will had carefully packed up his belongings to let the rightful owner take residence again for the length of his leave. But Stephen had shaken his head. "Max is away. I'll use his room. I'm a nomad now, Will. It's all yours." The last door closed. The last glimmer of reflected light went out. Will looked at his watch. Midnight had passed. Midsummer day was here now, a few minutes old. Half an hour's wait should be enough. He could see no stars through the skylight of his slanting roof, but only a moon-wasted sky. Its muted brightness filtered down into the room. The house was muffled in sleep when he finally crept down the stairs in his pajamas, gingerly treading the furthest corners of those steps that he knew would creak. Outside the door of his parents' room he froze suddenly. His father, snoring in a gentle crescendo, half woke himself, grunted, turned rustling over, and was lost again in soft-breathing sleep. Will smiled into the darkness. It would have been no great matter for an old one to put a household away into a pause of time, caught out of reality in a sleep that could not be broken, but he did not want that. There were likely to be enough ways tonight in which he would have to play with time. Softly, down the lower staircase, into the front hall he went. The picture he had come to find hung on the wall, just inside the big front door, beside the hat rack and umbrella stand. Will had brought a small flashlight with him, and he found he did not need it. The moonlight, silvering the air through the hall windows, showed him all the familiar figures the picture held. He had been fascinated by it since he was very small, so small that he had to clamber up on the umbrella stand to peer inside the dark carved wood of the picture frame. It was a Victorian print, done all in murky shades of brown. Its great attraction was the enormous, complicated clarity of its detail. In flowing script it was entitled "The Romans at Caerleon," and it showed the construction of some complex building. Everywhere, crowds of figures tugged ropes, led oxen, straining on sturdy wooden yokes, guided slabs of rock into place. A paved central floor was finished, smooth and elliptical, flanked by columned arches. A wall or staircase seemed to be rising beyond. Roman soldiers, splendidly ununiformed, stood overseeing the bands of men unloading and tugging the neatly cut stones into place. Will looked for one soldier in particular, a centurion in the far right-hand corner of the foreground, leaning against a pillar. He was the only still figure in the whole panorama of busy construction. His face, drawn in clear detail, was grave and rather sad. He was gazing out of the picture into the distance. The sad remoteness was the reason why Will, when small, had always found himself more intrigued by this one odd figure than by all the rest of the scurrying workers put together. It was also the reason why Merriman had chosen this man for concealing the signs. Merriman. Will sat down on the stairs, chin in hands. He must think. Think hard and think deep. It was simple enough to remember the way in which he and Merriman had managed the hiding of the linked circle of 6 signs, the most powerful and vulnerable weapons of the light. Back into the time of this Roman they had gone. And there, among the stones whose pictures hung before him now, he, Will, had slipped the signs into the place they could lie safe and unseen, buried by time. But to remember that was one thing, to reverse it quite another. He thought, the only way to live through all that all over again, I have to go again, to go once more through everything we did in hiding the signs, and then, instead of stopping, I shall have to find a way to take them out again. He was beginning to be excited now. He thought, Merriman can still be there, but I shall have to do it. I shall be with you, but powerless, he said. He won't be able to show me the moment when I have to say something or do something, whatever it is. He may not even know when it comes, only I can choose it, for the light, and if I fail, we can go no further forward from here. Excitement dwindled beneath the appalling, merciless weight of responsibility. There was one key only to the spell that would release the signs, and only he could find it. But where? When? How? Where? When? How? Will stood up. The way out of the spell could be found only by going back into it. So first he must reenact the casting of it. Turn time so that once more he could live through the hours, more than a year earlier, when with Will at his side, Merriman had... What had Merriman done? It must be an exact echo. Putting down his flashlight, Will stood before the picture on the wall, remembering. He reached out and put one hand on its frame. Then he stood very still, gazing in total concentration at a group of men in the picture's middle distance. Men straining at a rope that was pulling a slab of rock towards some point that could not be seen. He emptied his mind of all thought, his senses of all other sight or sound. He gazed, and very gradually the sound of creaking rope, rhythmic shouts, and the grinding of rock against rock began to grow in his ears, and he smelled dust and sweat and dung, and the figures in the picture began to move, and Will's hand was no longer on the wooden picture frame, but on the wooden side support of an ox cart laden with stone, and he stepped forward into the world of the Romans at Caerleon. A boy of that time, cool in a white linen tunic, on a warm summer's day, with square stone cobbles uneven beneath his sandaled feet. Heave, 2, 3! Heave, 2, 3! The stone inched forward on its rollers and other rhythms. The same shouts rang through the air from other groups. Soldiers and laborers working together, skins olive or dusty pink, hair curly black or lank blonde. Stones crashed and squealed against stone. Men and animals grunted with effort. And Merriman said into Will's ear from behind him, "You must be ready to slip the link when the moment comes." Looking down, Will saw the 6 signs of the light, joined by links of gold clasped about the waist of his tunic like a belt. Bright and dark they lay between the gleaming links, each of the 6 the same shape, a circle quartered by a cross. Dull bronze, dark iron, blackened wood, bright gold, glittering flint, and the last, that he would never forget, seeing it sometimes in his dreams, the sign of water, clear crystal, engraved with delicate symbols and patterns like a circle of snowflakes caught in ice. "Come," Merriman said. He swept past Will, tall in a dark blue cloak that fell almost to his feet, and drew level with the pillar beyond the steaming oxen, where a centurion stood watching a team of workmen lace straps and ropes around the topmost slab of granite on the wagon. Will followed, trying to be inconspicuous. "The work goes well," Merriman said. The Roman turned his head, and Will saw that it was the same somber figure whose image he had passed almost every day of his life. Bright dark eyes regarded Merriman from a lean, long-nosed face. "Ah," said the man, "it is the Druid." Merriman inclined his head in a kind of mock formal greeting. "Many things to many men," he said, smiling slightly. The soldier looked at him reflectively. "A strange land," he said. "Barbarians and magicians, dirt and poetry. A strange land, yours." Then he snapped, suddenly taut. Part of his attention had been all the while on the ox cart. "Careful there, you Sextus! The rope at the end!" Men scrambled to balance the descending slab, which had tipped perilously to one side. It came down in safety, and the man in command of the team saluted, calling his thanks. The centurion nodded and relaxed, though still watching them. Another wagon rumbled past, laden with long beams of wood. Merriman looked out at the rising structure before them. Their wider view now showed that it was a half-built amphitheater, stone-walled, with tiers of wood-topped seats rising in a great curving sweep from the central arena. Rome has many talents," he said. "We have some skill with stone here, and none can match our great stone circles, with their homage to the light. But the skill of the Roman builders for the daily life of men, as well as for worship, your villas, your viaducts, your pipes, your streets and baths, you are transforming our cities, friend, as you have begun transforming the pattern of our lives. The soldier shrugged. The empire grows always. He glanced at Will, who hovered at Merriman's side, watching the team of men swinging a long stone slowly to one side, down from the wagon. Your boy! He learns a little of what I know, Merriman said coolly. I have had him a year now. We shall see. He has the old blood in him, from the years before your fathers came. No father of mine, the centurion said. I am not empire-born. I came from Rome 7 years back, commissioned into the second. A long time gone. Rome is the empire is Rome, and yet... He smiled suddenly at Will, a kind smile lighting the severe face. You work hard for your master, boy. I try, sir, Will said. He enjoyed following the formal patterning of Latin. It came without effort to an old one, as did any language of the world, but brought somehow a particular pleasure because of the echoes of it in his own native tongue. The building interests you. Marvelous it is, the way each piece of stone is cut to fit exactly to the next, or to hold a beam of wood, and the putting them together so carefully, precisely. They know just what they're doing. It is all planned, just as anywhere in the Empire. The same amphitheater has been built in a score of legionary fort towns like this one, from Sparta to Brindisium. Come, I will show you. He took Will by the shoulder with a beckoning glance at Merriman, and led them across the sandy central floor of the arena to a half-finished vaulted arch, one of 8 entrances through the rising tiers of seats. When my third team brings up the next slab, it will fit here. So, and lock in place there. A column of stone slabs was beginning to rise at the side of the arch. Will peered at the next as it drew close on its rollers, tugged by 4 sweating soldiers. A grunting, straining team hoisted it into place in the rising arch. It was much larger than the rest, irregular with a large hollow depression in the top, but with one broad, unusually flat surface for the front side. Will saw the inside letters COHXCFLAV, Julian. Built by the 10th cohort, the century of Flavius Julian. Built by the 10th cohort, the century of Flavius Julianus, Merriman said. Excellent. And silently, in the old one's manner of speaking into the mind, he said to Will, in there, now. At the same moment, he stumbled, knocking clumsily against the centurion's elbow. The Roman turned courteously to catch him. Is anything wrong? Swiftly, Will slipped the belt of linked signs from his waist and dropped it into the hollow irregularity in the slab's top side, over which the next slab of stone would be placed. He pushed the earth and stones hastily over it to keep the gleaming metals from view. I beg your pardon, Merriman was saying. Foolish, my sandal. The soldier turned back. The team came straining up, moved quickly aside, and the stone slab groaned and squeaked into place, and the circle of signs was shut into a coffin of stone, to lie hidden for as long as the work of the Roman Empire should survive. And we'll pause there.